One of the most dangerous flaws in human character is go between. Go between is about making a promise and not fulfilling it. Let's learn more about this flaw in this episode.
Sometimes, or many a time in our day to day personal, professional life, we make promises, we make commitment, and many a time we fulfill our commitments, sometimes we don't. Many people habitually, as a matter of principle, come what may, fulfill their promise every time they make one. And there are many who habitually break their promises, no matter how difficult or easy the task was. So essentially, when we break our promise, we deceive our mind. Because that's where we have not just made a commitment, a promise to somebody else, we have also made a promise to ourselves. So whatever we had in our mind, we cheat or deceive our mind. And as we continue doing that, this could become a very dangerous, detrimental aspect of our character. Sister Thakur says, never give any positive word to anyone about anything which is not in your ownership and in your positive custody, because you may fail to supply that. Be not the cause of undue suffering to anyone in any way. Sometimes we make promises without even thinking about the consequences. If I say somebody that I will repay your loan in the next 15 days, that person must be waiting for me to repay, and then he might need that money in the next 15 days. If I don't do that, it could be the cause of suffering for that person. Once again, Sister Thakur, in a very clearing voice, tells us, if you have given anyone your word in any affair, do not fail in the least to do according to your word. Yet, if you cannot accomplish it, let him know as soon as possible, and delight him with humility and modesty, and be vigilant. If there is any way, help him sincerely as far as possible in that way. So if you have to give what to anyone, take well into account whether it is something within your normal capacity, then give your word. He says, once you make a promise, fulfill it come what may. There is absolutely no compromise. But sometimes in our lives, we make a promise and some unplanned, unexpected event takes place. And then we know that we'll not be able to fulfill our promise. Sister Thakur says, when you get to know about it, when you get a hint about it, when you feel or think that you will not be able to fulfill the promise that you have made, go back to that person. Tell him that I am facing this difficulty. Tell him with humility and modesty, and try your best to help him in whichever way you can. If you cannot fulfill that promise, if you cannot help that person, if you can have somebody else help that person, do that. Try everything possible to make that happen. Mr. Thakur is saying that if you believe that you are not very confident about fulfilling your promise, don't say that I will do it within a certain time frame. If you can probably say, let me see if I can do it. Let me try to do it. But Thakur has again cautioned us. Trying to do it does not mean washing your hands by saying, friend, I only said I will try to do it. I did not promise it. Thakur again is very clear. He said the moment you say, I will try to do it, you must sincerely try, do everything that you can to make sure that you can fulfill your promise. Go between essentially is not just about giving a promise and breaking it. It's also about having something in mind and not carrying it out. As you can see in the next message of Sister Thakur, he says, spend money for the purpose it has been meant for, because it has been charged with your volition, urge accordingly. Sister Thakur has said that somebody may be highly qualified, extremely competent, but if he has this one small flaw in his character, if he indulges in go between, all his knowledge, qualification, his experience, his background, everything is meaningless. When Sister Thakur was a small child, On one occasion, Sister Thakur's grandmother asked him one day to go to the market to buy some betel leaves and some lime. The lime that we sprayed on the betel leaves, pan and chun. His grandmother called him near her, and then she was holding two 1 paise coins in her hands. She put one coin in the left hand of Sister Thakur and then said, "You will buy betel with this." And she put the other coin on the right hand of Sister Thakur and then said, "You will buy chun, lime with this coin." One coin to buy pan, another coin to buy chun. The little boy that Sister Thakur was, he started walking towards the market. It was a bit of a long distance. In the course of the walking, somehow by mistake, these two coins got mixed up. And by the time boy Anukul reached the market, he realized these two coins have now been mixed up. He was not sure which coin was to buy pan, which coin was to buy chun. And he was confused. He did not know what to do. He came walking back to his home again and met his grandmother and said, "Grandma, I am extremely sorry. I made a mistake. I mixed up both the coins, both the 1 paise coins, and I did not know which one you gave me for pan, which one you gave me for chun." His grandmother was surprised. She said, "How does it matter? You could have used one coin to buy betel leaves. You could have used the other coin to buy lime. How does it matter?" But the boy Anukul was confused. He was not able to understand. How can he do that? His grandmother gave one particular coin to buy betel leaves, another to buy lime. How can he mix it up? This is our Sri Thakur. He teaches us through his own actions. Sri Thakur talks about the harmful effects of go-between. And in this one small message, very powerfully and very candidly, emphatically, Sri Thakur says, beware of go-between. Otherwise, the knocking shock of mishandling may tear you with every fettered fate. Sri Thakur says, consistent practice of go-between can bring you disaster. It can destroy you. People who indulge in go-between are generally ungrateful, undependable, irresponsible. They're habitually forgetful. They're idle, they're fussy about things, they're lazy. They generally do not value time, their own time and others' time. They're eager to borrow but unwilling to pay back. They blame others for their own failure to keep their promises. If they can't keep the promise, they find somebody else to be at fault for that. They don't think that they're responsible. And they're the ones whose thoughts, habits, activities, income, expenditure, planning, everything is in complete disorder. Everything is absolutely out of order, out of sync, out of harmony. Do we want to become such people? Sri Thakur has scientifically analyzed this, and he said, as you break your promises day after day, week after week, month after month, the wiring of your brain will be tuned to breaking promises. Making a promise to a friend is also making a promise to yourself. And as you make a promise to yourself and you break it, you create a tension in your brain. You create a stress in your brain. You create a sense of inferiority complex in your brain. And slowly, you start believing about your incapacity. You start believing that whatever you promise, you can't fulfill. Your brain naturally, spontaneously accepts the fact that if a promise is made, is meant to be broken. And that becomes natural and spontaneous in you. Then you get into the vicious cycle of making promises, breaking promises, and getting out of that, Sri Thakur says, becomes extremely difficult thereafter. Now the question is, how do we overcome go between? Sri Thakur says the only solution is the moment you realize that you have go between, the only solution is stop indulging in go between from that moment. From that very moment, you won't have get time. If you allow you to continue indulging in go between, then you will never be able to come out of it. It'll become extremely difficult. Stop indulging in go between from that very moment. That is the prayashchit. That is the penance for indulging in go between. I would like to very quickly share with you an incident from the life of Sri Bodda, who was the eldest son of Sri Thakur and the first Pradhan Acharya of Satsang. In his childhood, when he was an adolescent, he was a teenager, one day Sri Bodda had to go to a place and he had to go there very urgently. And then he knew that a person in the neighborhood has a new bicycle. And he said, if I go and approach and request him for his bicycle, and if he gives me his bicycle, I can reach that place quickly. That person generally was known not to be giving his bicycle to anyone on loan. He was very, very possessive about his bicycle. But when Bodda went to him and asked him for his bicycle, he could not say no, because Sri Thakur's son himself has come and asked him for the bicycle. Sri Bodda promised him that he said, before a certain time, I will return the bicycle. Sri Bodda had calculated, if he needs about 4 hours, he had told him, I will return to you in about 6 hours. He had factored that extra time. So Sri Bodda came back and returned the cycle to him 1 hour prior to the committed time. And before he returned that, Sri Bodda cleaned it properly and oiled the cycle beautifully. The cycle was shining, looking better than when he had taken it from him. Sri Bodda had taken the cycle from this person. This man was extremely excited, delighted to see the cycle, which came back to him 1 hour before the committed time, which was shining, dazzling, looking beautiful. So Sri Bodda says, every time after that, he comes to me whenever I don't even ask for his cycle. He says, Bodda, why don't you take my cycle if you need it? This is the power of promising and fulfilling your commitments.